Srila Prabhupada came to the temple again. He came to the temple again, and after I had moved in. So I was a new devotee. A new devotee. I can't remember if I was initiated or not. I think I was probably initiated first. He was not physically present when I got first initiation, but he had a sannyasi, Rupanuga Prabhu, old devotee. He was in New York and he performed the fire sacrifice, gave me the beads, and he had the letter where Prabhupada is saying, I'm accepting these people. It was a bunch of us. And, I was happy. But I was just first initiated, and Prabhupada comes to the temple. And he was coming. And the president told us, Prabhupada's coming tomorrow. And we're all going to the airport to meet him. Everybody's going to the airport to meet him. So it'd be like a festival. In those days, this is long before 9/11, you go all the way up to the gate. So when the president made that announcement, he motioned for me to come. And he told me, he said, everyone's going to the airport to meet Prabhupada except you. Oh, I was like, how could you? And why me? He says, somebody's got to stay back to guard the deities. Because we used to have problems with the neighbors. We were the temple was situated in an Italian Puerto Rican neighborhood. And the young guys were always taunting the devotees. Sometimes they would throw things at us when we were going out to go in Harinam or something. They were always giving us problems. So the president felt somebody's got to stay back and guard the temple, the deities, while everyone goes to the airport. And he chose me to stay back. And I'm like, how could he? Doesn't he know how much I want to go? He knew everybody wants to go, but he chose me to stay back. And that was like the first surrender that I had to do. I really didn't want to. I wanted more than anything to go with the devotees and greet Srila Prabhupada at the airport. So the next morning when they're all getting ready to go, they're all loading into the cars, maybe 50, 60 devotees are going. And I have to stay back. I'm struggling with that idea. I'm struggling with that idea. And I began to think, maybe I'll watch out the front door and make sure when the president gets in his car and goes, I'll run out and go in one of the other cars and go. But I began to think about that, and I thought, as I began to think about it, I realized it's not a good idea. Because what if while I go, what if the neighbors seeing all the devotees going, what if they came and desecrated the temple? Because I was reading Bhagavatam at that time, and you would hear how these demons would go and desecrate the sacrificial arenas and pass stool and all this thing. My mind, I was thinking, they could come and do all of that. And I began to think further, and what if, while I'm out there enjoying, what if Prabhupada his car gets to the temple first, because they'll pick him up at the curb, and his car will reach the temple first. Everybody else has to go to the parking lot and find it. They'll be 5 to 10 minutes later. I said, and what if Prabhupada comes in the temple room, opens the door, and there's stool and urine on the ground? And he said, what is this? All this is going on in my mind. And I said, so I'm thinking, Prabhupada's asking the president, what is this? And the president said, it must be the neighbors. And then Prabhupada would ask, well, why didn't you leave somebody behind to watch the temple? And the president would say, I did, Srila Prabhupada, I left somebody behind. And Prabhupada would say, and where is that rascal? Meaning me. So I knew at that point, I can't go. I have to surrender and stay and man my spot, man my station. So they all went. But by surrendering there, I was rewarded, because just as I figured, Prabhupada's car arrived first, maybe 10 minutes before any other car. And I'm in the temple just walking back and forth, chanting japa, Radha Govindas at the altar. And suddenly the door, the front door to the temple opens, and Prabhupada walks in alone. I couldn't believe it. So I immediately, dandavats, I fell on the ground. And he got up and he walked slowly, come up front, stand in front, taking darshan of Radha Govinda. And I'm just watching him. I'd never been, and I'm alone with him in the temple room. That's in itself, kind of unique. He walks back up and he goes and he sits on the Vyasasana. And as soon as he sits down, the other people who were in the car with him was the president of the temple, Prabhupada's servant, Shruti Kirti, and two sannyasis, Kirtananda Swami, and I can't remember who the other one was. Well, what happened was the president had brought all of them into the pujari room and given them something to do. So they all four come walking out. Somebody's got a pitcher with water and a basin. Someone's got a towel to dry his feet. Someone's got an archery tray. Someone's got a garland. And they came and Prabhupada's sitting down there, and he puts his foot out. So they're going to start the process of receiving him. I'd never seen that ceremony before. So I stood up nearby and I'm watching what's going to happen. And I realized they're going to wash his feet. So just as they began, the temple president, he was in front of me. He turned around and he said, don't just stand there, chant. Oh, okay. So I ran and I got a mridanga and I started singing. I came back and I'm this close to Prabhupada and I'm singing Sri Guru Charana Padma. And while I'm singing it, I'm glued on to Prabhupada. He began responding. I sing a line and he repeats it, he responds. I couldn't hear anybody else. I don't even know if one of the other four was chanting. All I'm seeing is I'm watching Prabhupada and he's chanting, responding. And this way I did the whole song. And I'm thinking, if I had abandoned my spot and gone in the car, I would have never got this. And this was priceless. So I learned something there, that you do your duty. It was my duty to stay. You can't just whimsically abandon your duty. And then, just as I'm getting to the end of the song, the last verse, the other cars arrived. And they're right outside the Prabhupada's Vyasasanas. In the back of the temple room, there's windows, and behind those windows is the pavement, the street. So we're up there, and then you could hear all the cars screeching and doors slamming. And then next thing you know, the door bangs open and all the devotees rushed in with badangas and everything, you know, Jai Sachinanda and a bunch of others, you know. And they were like shocked because there I was leading the kirtan for Prabhupada. There wasn't even a kartal player. And they just like, for a second there, and then they joined me. They joined me, and then I picked up the tempo of the kirtan, and we had a big kirtan, you know, like a rip-roaring kirtan for Prabhupada. And it was just wonderful. That was my first time chanting for Prabhupada.